simple enough. The idea being that you can by changing the scale that you're actually looking at and how quickly you're traversing through it, the data that you collected, you can sort of imagine the ocean as another player in your ensemble and sort of react to the chunk of data that you've selected, and then change that on the fly as well. So that's pretty much what's going on.
Hi, my name is Aiden Meacham. I'm a first-year master's student here at Karma, and my project was called Coastal Distillation. The goal for this project primarily was to implement a remote data collection infrastructure that could be used with a wide variety of projects, either for sound or just data collection. So my initial goal was to have a unit that was capable of being plugged in or battery powered anywhere that there was a cell phone signal and being able to get that data in real time to wherever you need it to be. My motivation for this project was I sail boats up in Marin County, and the bay that we sail in bottoms out to mud, which obviously you can't sail in. So the tide charts that we check are only somewhat accurate. The tide charts are accurate out in the ocean, but not for the bay that we actually sail in. So in order to get a more accurate sense of when I can go sailing, the idea was to place this canister on a dock where we sail to be able to closely monitor the actual tide readings relative to the ocean, so that we can have a larger time window for which we can go sailing. So in order to accomplish this, I created a waterproof canister out of ABS pipe and pipe fittings, into which I placed an ultrasonic proximity sensor connected to an Arduino that was then connected to a shield that has a SIM card in it that can send data over the GSM protocol. So, in short, by mounting this on a fixed height object, such as a pier or a piling, and pointing it at the water or some other object that is at the same height as the water, we can get readings out of it that are the exact distance between this fixed point and the water. Once we do that, we can essentially infer the tide relative to the 0 point, so to speak. So once I had accomplished this by putting this waterproof unit together, all that needed to be done was to place it, plug it in, and turn it on, and it would send data continuously to a streaming service on the internet. I can ping this service at any time and watch updates come in live, or I can go back through the history and grab as many samples of data as I wish. So that was the motivation for the second portion of this project, which was actually building some filters based off of the data that I collected. The goal for this portion of the project was to highlight the sense of scale that the tides can give you. On one hand, you have very small undulations, the individual waves that are rolling through. And on another hand, you have the tides themselves, which are about 6-hour undulations. And then on an even longer scale, you have seasonal changes in those tides, all of which you can see very clearly looking at well-sampled data. So the goal was to be able to zoom in and out and take little chunks of this or extremely large chunks and to be able to put them into a human scale. So you could use a tide as your generator for a parameter, or a wave, or some combination of the two, depending on the chunk of data that you select, and how zoomed in you are, and how quickly you loop through it. So if you look on my screen here, I actually have about 2 days worth of tide data selected on this buffer here. So I have about 1 day's worth of data selected, and it's clear. You can see from the lowest tide to a high tide to another low tide to the next highest tide. You can see the entire day's collection, and you can zoom in on that to get to much smaller scales, or zoom out and see the entire thing. But essentially, you can see now here that by sampling some smaller portion of that, I'm able to get what is essentially, in my mind, a discontinuous LFO to drive filter parameters. So in this case, you can hear I'm driving a low-pass filter, very simple. And I'll just use my voice to illustrate sort of all I'm doing is adjusting the cutoff frequency. So you'll be able to hear the portion of the data that I've selected. So you can see that the cutoff frequency follows the wave that is being generated from the selection that I have. Another cool feature of this patch is that once you make a selection, you can simply drag it around and essentially scrub through all of the data that you've collected on whichever time scale you choose. So for example, you could zoom in very closely on some chunk, highlight it, and scrub around within that, and vary the frequency at which you are stepping through it. So you can see now I'm generating this very fine sawtooth because of that portion that I've selected, and I can change the frequency of that sawtooth on the fly. So this is a very interesting system to me. It's surprisingly intuitive for how complex it is, and it allows you to truly take advantage of the scale that is afforded by this sort of data. So the goal for future projects would be to improve the sensing capabilities of my tide device to get extremely accurate down to the second, if not sub-second detail, and to be able to leverage that in a variety of situations, perhaps to use it for generative music or anything else one can think of. All that we're getting are parameters, or all you are doing really is driving parameters. So the opportunities are endless. But the affordances that a truly wireless data connection gives you are really extreme, and I think something that will be taken advantage of in the future, particularly with more development, bringing down the cost and figuring out the best possible methodology for future artists to collect live data and visualize it and sonify it in real time. Thanks.